Welcome to the RVA Returners Podcast, your weekly source for all things Final Fantasy TCG.
Yeah, the Carbuncle deck felt really, really good down at Hampton on Friday.
Yeah, I think that deck has been good the entire time, really. It's just that other stuff's like a lot more efficient, you know?
Yeah, and like nobody was really playing it. Obviously, except for like the Prince version. I think the old one still has legs.
Oh, yeah. It's a different deck, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree. But Adam, you know what else has legs? It's even got bones. It's the RVA Returners Podcast. Guys, we are back. Thank you for tuning in, as always. I'm your host, Chris Adams. With me, as always, Adam Lane. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
There it is. Yeah, man. Boy, a lot to talk about this week. We had the first Crystal Cup. The Petite Cup circuit in North America is finally over. We have enough spoilers to choke a donkey. That's for sure.
It's a ton. I don't know the exact number, but it's a metric ass ton of spoilers.
that I believe that is a scientific amount.
Yeah, I looked it up.
But I'm gonna tell you right now, Adam. There's only one place where you can find all of that information. And it's not CNN. It's not MSNBC.
Is it Fox News?
Not even Fox News. It's not even close. Not even close. But you were half right. It's the news. All right. So we're going to lead off with the Kansas Petite Cup. It was actually two events. We'll talk about the one on Saturday first, the actual Kansas Petite Cup at Collector's Cash. From what I could tell, I only got to see a little bit of it because I did put in some extra work hours this weekend. I did tune in. Stream looked fine. We had 62 players at this event?
Something like that. It was either 62 or 67. I can't remember the exact number, but it's in the 60s.
It was over 60. Yeah, it was definitely good. Having 60 players was really, really solid. Do you have the top 8 from that event? Because I know it was 60 players with a top 8 cut.
Yeah, I don't have the full top 8. I have what was the finals of that event. I didn't get to watch all of it either, but I caught the finals. And the finals was Kyle Peters versus I think his name was Ben something. Mm-hmm. And it was Ben was on Earth Wind and Kyle was on Mono Lightning.
Yep. So it was, I want to say it went to went the full gamut. I believe it went the full 3 games, didn't it?
So I can't remember because funny enough, the Petite Cup final, spoiler alert, is the same matchup, and they went the full gambit for the finals. Mm-hmm. I can't remember if they went all 3 games for this, but I know that Ben was the winner.
Nice. Yeah. He won. He won Saturday, and you said Kyle won the finals.
Yeah. So yes.
Okay, and we'll get to that. Not to jump the gun here.
The finals ended up being only 6 people, sadly.
Yeah. Oh, that's rough. Which means only 2 people traveled out.
3.
It was Sam Prime.
3 people traveled.
It was Sam. Okay.
Yeah. So one person from California, or like not from California, but one person from the Arizona Petite Cup traveled.
Okay.
I want to say he's from California. Sam and then Amethyst from North Carolina traveled.
So does that mean one of the top 4 from yesterday didn't show up today?
Apparently they had like a family emergency, I think is what I heard.
Okay. Well, that's understandable. Well, that definitely takes precedence. Okay.
So 6 people total is what it ended up being.
Yeah, and the only unfortunate side to that is, these events actually ended up drawing a pretty massive crowd for the most part. The smallest one was, 30 players? Like, that was Arizona. Yeah, the smallest one was, 30, 31 players, and that was Arizona. Even the one in New York that was in a venue about the size of my office had 40 players.
Yep. Yeah, so I think it shows a lot of promise. I think the issue was just the finals was pretty costly for a lot of people to try to travel to.
Yeah, and it's not cheap to get out there.
Yeah, and so it was really only beneficial for the people that happened to also be playing in the Kansas City Petite Cup. And I think I don't know if Amethyst and, forgive me, I don't remember the guy's name from the Arizona Petite Cup. I don't know if they played on Saturday or they just went out for Sunday. I know Sam played on Saturday.
Yeah.
But that's all I know. So.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure. And maybe this will be kind of like you said. Maybe it'll kind of, maybe cause some changes for next year. Because Tampa, had 91 players.
92, I think, was the final number.
Yeah, we had 76 players at ours.
Yep.
This one, Collector's Cash had, I want to say 62, 63. Mm-hmm. New York had 40. I want to say even the one in Seattle had,
I think it was around 40.
The one in Oregon had about 40. So like people came out to play at these events.
Yeah.
And for it to kind of end with nobody, the location they were at, which, and I think Collector's Cash is a fantastic store.
I think it was just a combination of things, really, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not that it was at a bad time or at a bad store, really. I think it's just the incentive. But to be fair, like their point was they just wanted it to be like a fun thing. They didn't want to give too much incentive. They didn't want to put like a World's Invite or anything on the line. And so that kind of like really, a lot of people that went to these Petite Cups, barring a few people, came because they were close, right? And I think the same went for Kansas. Like, only 3 people really flew, kind of. Like, a lot of people probably were in reasonable driving distance, right? So,
right.
And I think that's why the fall-off happened, because not everybody that was there, not the 60 people the day before, they can't play in the finals. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think that was really just the thing. I mean... Yeah. There's a lot of things that they could change, and I'm sure some things will change next year. And I'm looking forward to see what those things are. So,
oh, absolutely. I think they're off to the right track. I think next year you could probably expect the same number, and maybe next year there'll be a little bit more incentive behind them, which is fine. And I mean, overall, I think the North American Petite Cup circuit ended up going very, very well, probably better than expected.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah.
But, those weren't the only big events happening. And also, big congratulations to the 2 winners this weekend, Ben and Kyle Peters. Yep, so Kyle is actually the first U.S. Nats player that has qualified this season.
Correct, yep.
So he's got that. Congratulations to him for winning the whole thing. So now he can just kind of sit back and relax until then, or at least just, not have to worry about the grind. Unless he wants to go to Crystal Cups, which are where, these are world invites at these things.
Yep.
And speaking of which, we have our first World's Invited player, because the Ice Crystal Cup was happening this weekend, and I tuned into some of that. A lot of back and forth. Again, I was busy, so I got to like tune in when I could. I'm actually going to spend the rest of the night tonight after we're done. I'm gonna go through the VODs and check a lot of the stuff out, the stuff that I didn't see, kind of go back through. But big shout outs to Toby winning the entire thing.
Yeah, that tournament was kind of stacked, yeah, to be honest.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was completely stacked. There was a lot of killers there. And this was the one where you had 8 rounds day 1, I believe.
Yep.
And then it cut to top 32 for day 2, and they did a draft, and it was 4 rounds of draft 4 rounds of limited at that point, and then with a top 8 cut.
Yep.
So yeah, the tournament was stacked. Adam, what were your thoughts of the first Crystal Cup of the season?
I thought it was pretty hype, to be honest. I mean,
yeah,
there are some similar things as far as streaming goes that have been happening, but I think it's getting a little better. It did kind of suck that it seemed like they didn't have a lot of time to prepare, so we were kind of left with like a camera angle that was a little bit less than reasonable, but like they did what they could with what they had, I think. Which is better than nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm glad I got to watch the play because the caliber of play was very high. I mean, when your top 4 is like Toby, JFB, Robert Phillips, and Viet Duck Fam, like those are all 4 like stellar players. Honestly, like you see them in top 8's pretty good amount, all of them. And Toby's a former world champion, obviously, and not much more to be said there. And I mean, congrats to him for becoming the first world's qualified player, I believe, unless someone from Japan's already qualified that I don't know of. On a deck that's like pretty different, to be honest.
Yeah, so as far as the meta goes here, I know there was let's go ahead and now again, because of time zones and everything, do you know if there was coverage of the actual drafting, or did they do all the draft off camera and coverage didn't start until they were ready to go into the rounds?
I woke up late, but I think they just covered after post-draft. Like, I think they didn't cut the stream on until everybody had already kind of drafted and started that first round of Swiss and draft. But again, I woke up late, so I'm not 100% sure on that. And a lot of the people that were already in the top 8 previous to the draft starting still made top 8, which kind of, I think, proves the point that, like, if you could play Constructed in this game, I think you're pretty well adept to play draft. Like, what makes a good card, then you can draft. And I think Opus 7 is a fine draft set, in my opinion. I don't. It's not Opus 6 for me. I like Opus 6 a lot, but I think Opus 7 is fine.
Yeah,
and the 6-packs helps for consistency too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And big shout out to I know one of the people I was rooting for all weekend was Joe Hill, Joe Saphir himself. So close to top 8.
Yeah, I think he ended up 10th. He squeaked in.
Yeah, I think he finished 10th. Yeah.
Yeah, he squeaked into top 32. I think at like 28th or something like that,
Yeah.
and managed to I think do really really well in draft. I want to say he went X1. And
it was the bubble.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the thing is, if even though it resets, I guess kinda, it doesn't really reset your score. So he has to try a lot harder than the people who already did well day one.
Yeah, like Robert Phillips, who was undefeated, he could easily coast through draft, and go X1 or XO, whatever. Like him, Toby, JFB, the guys who were in the top 4 spots had a lot easier time going through limited. And I say that with the context of they had a game or two to give.
Yeah, they have a well-earned head start. That's the way I look at it. Yeah, I mean, they earned their head start.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, go back to what you were saying, the caliber of play that we saw. Man, I'll tell you right now, watching a guy like Robert Phillips play Windwater, when I say Windwater with him, I'm specifically talking about the Crystal Chronicles deck. That dude just, it really shows you just how powerful not just that deck is, but then to throw Toby in the mix with his Windwater deck, just how powerful that archetype is.
Oh, I mean,
and how much gas that it has and how much consistency it brings to the table.
That deck is cheap. Yeah, that deck's cheap. I mean, I'll say it. The deck's cheap, but it does require the pilot to also be very good. Toby's deck a little bit lesser of a scale in my opinion, but he played it well, and he showed he had some lines and ways to deal with other powerful cards. Of course, he was also playing green cards, which helps. But, I mean, yeah, to me, I think coming out of this meta, and we'll talk about it as part of our main topic a little bit, I think this is the best deck by a good margin. I just think it requires a pilot to be of pretty high skill in order for you to see the big advantages it actually has over a lot of other decks.
Yep, and it's all in the sequencing. It is 100% all in the sequencing, and that's what kind of separates the chaff from the wheat in that regard. But I can't wait to go back through and actually watch a lot of it again. And I think overall, to kind of touch on what you were saying, I thought the stream was fine. I thought the commentary was fine. I think they all did a great job, and I agree with you. I think there was maybe some preparation that they just didn't have, but they definitely made it a fun watch. And to discount the guys at Collector's Cash, the fact that they had a stream for that. There wasn't much commentary in the beginning, but in top 8, they had some commentary. Even my man Cody was on the 1s and 2s for a little while.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and then they did commentary today. So, I think this was a good weekend to be a spectator, and I like that, because coming from somebody who does the commentary side of things, it is really nice when you can get people that can't be there to really get invested and involved in the events, because that's just the way these things are. You want people who are on the outside looking in, you want them to see the hype plays, you want them to talk about it with their friends, you want the chat to blow up when people do crazy things. So the fact that everybody, I think all the streams this weekend, everybody did an overall fantastic job. And I can't wait to see kind of what's going to happen here in the future. So great events. Congratulations to Toby. Congratulations to Kyle. All the big winners this weekend. I don't think you could have asked for a better weekend of cards. And I urge everybody, go back and watch all the VODs for all the events, the Petite Cup, the Petite Cup Finals, and the Crystal Cup for Germany. There's just a lot of great play. And it's just, if you really want to see what made Opus 7 actually a pretty great meta, you'll get to see it all right there. So
yeah, I think for me, the German Crystal Cup for me is everything was pretty meta to an extent. I mean, top 8 was still pretty well versed. You had 3 Wind Waters, like I said, but only 2 were the standard version.
You had that Agrius, baby.
2 Agrius decks actually, and both were very different. The one that I saw day 1 was more like Grand Jason's build, and then I think the one day 2 that I was hearing about was a 5-color build or something pretty wild.
Oh yeah.
Mono Lightning was there. Yeah, Mono Lightning was there, and then 2 Ice Earths as well.
Yeah, so it was you had a lot of really diverse decks, but you also had just the decks that really just kind of personified the meta as well. So overall, great weekend of cards. I urge everybody to go back there and watch that. But Adam, that's not the only thing that's been happening. We got spoilers to talk about. Just a lot of them. Yeah, boy, howdy, do we have a lot of them.
Yeah, it's a ton. So I'll start off with saying we've seen the pictures of the starter cards now. or at least 6 of them. So there's still more that we haven't seen.
Yep.
But we don't know what they do. All we know is that we're getting a Barrett that's an EX burst that looks like he's almost like a Ferris for Final Fantasy VII, but I can't 100% tell. A Yuffie that you can only read part of it, and it could be really good. It could not be. I'm not sure. Like, all I know is that you're going to have to pay X for something. A Hien that I can't tell what it does like at all, really. And then a Yugiri that looks like she gains haste somehow, but again, I can't really tell her deal. Like, all I know is that they're forwards.
Yep, and don't the starter decks get released on pre-release weekend this time as well?
They do. They always do, I believe. So we should get our starters on Saturday.
Awesome. Well, that's good. Well, let's just go down the line here. Let's talk about them. Obviously, people have been talking about some of these. So, the ones that we think are really, I think that are going to be really impactful, we will definitely stop and talk about. But otherwise, some of these we're going to fly through. We'll talk about them, say whether we like it or not, and just move right along.
Yeah, okay, so the first one actually was kind of a hot one, I think. No pun intended, really. It's a Lava Spider. It's a 1 CP Crystal Chronicles monster. Attacking forwards you control, gain plus 3,000 power. I kind of want to tackle this first, actually, because I have a lot to say. I think this card is a trap. I see a lot of people that are like really excited about it and thought that it was like broken. And I don't think it's terrible or anything. And I think in the right deck, if you build toward it, it can do some very good things, like with Waft Monsters. I know we've discussed this. It could be very good there.
I think that's the deck it shines in, honestly.
Yeah, but this isn't just going to go in like every fire deck. Like, I wouldn't even really put this in the Mono Fire Wool deck, to be honest. I just don't want to waste a card slot that's not a forward that's attacking, so that my guys are bigger than they need to be. Like, and it's also in the weird slot of monsters where they're a lot easier to deal with. So I do think, though, that maybe this could see some play in Scions as just an Urion JA target off color. That could be interesting. But I don't think that this is just going to go in, like, every red deck. Like,
I agree with that 100%. Like I said, I do agree with you. I think it's going to be really good in Limited. I think it's a card that you want to see in Limited. And I also think, like I said, I think the Waft Monster deck, a deck where you're just centralized around weenie forwards, I think that's where it's really going to shine. But I think you really have to just be aware of its downside, where that buff does not last until the end of turn. So if they're big enough to get over something, but they take damage after that attack's done, it's still going to die.
Could be cool with Minwu. Could be cool with Minwu or something like that, or maybe if you're using First Strike. But other than that, you're basically just trading up.
Yeah, you're just allowing your weenies to tackle big guys, and that's why I think it works well in the Waft Monster deck.
Which isn't bad, but color limited. Right, it's not bad. You just have to be okay with your things still dying. I think that's the key. The next one's another 1 CP fire monster. It's Golem. Crystal Chronicles again. When he enters the field, choose a forward, give it 2,000 power until end of turn, and then you can break him to choose an attacking forward and give it 4,000 power until end of turn.
I think this card's good. It's almost like essentially like a reverse Tonberry, if that makes sense. Where it's and I think that's almost every bit as good as being able to threaten a guy getting bigger, and then even bigger just for the cost of 1 and breaking it just seems really, really good. I think as a card, I think this card's better than the Spider.
I agree. Yeah, I when I first saw it, I was like, this card's better than the Spider in my opinion. To me, it's worth more of a card slot. I can kind of like pop it whenever I want to, and the fact that the power lasts until in a turn, to me, is much more important, I think, than people are giving it credit for. Again, in Limited, I think it's very strong. In Standard, I just need to see maybe some kind of weenie deck will be good. I don't think I'm making room for either of these cards in a Mono Fire Wall deck, but I'm not really sure like how that deck's going to change yet, to be fair.
Yeah. No, so they're on the radar, but we'll kind of see what happens as we see like the rest of the set.
Yeah. Next card is a new summon. It's a Fenrir. It's a 2 CP Earth summon. When you cast it, you may pay an extra 2 colorless. Choose 1 light forward or dark forward. Break it. If you paid the extra cost, remove it from the game instead.
I don't know. I think it's an okay card. I like the remove from the game clause on it, which allows But I think because of who it kills is kind of limited. I feel like, especially since it's being an Earth, I feel like that's almost if you have something that's special to kill a light or dark card, I feel like that's kind of what you're running Minfilia for on the back end. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad card at all. I think the fact that it specifically targets light or dark, and then you have the option to remove it from the game so they can't get it back later. Like specifically for a card like Galdus.
Yep.
That's where I think the card is, where it really will get a lot of its value. But at the same time, too, and I guess it depends on the deck too, right? Because I think it could be a fine one or two of, especially with so many ways for Earth to not only search for summons out of their deck, but to get them back from the break zone. I think it's a fine one of in a lot of Earth decks. I just got to figure out what you'd be cutting to put it in there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a fine one of. I think people are giving it a little more flack because I do think it's actually pretty good. I mean, killing Yuri for 2 CP seems insane to me. Removing Galdus from the game, even for 4, seems really good. I mean, it sucks you're paying 1 more than Galdus costs, but you're not getting.
He doesn't get that value back.
Exactly. And it's a little flexible in that way. Being able to kill Camelot for 2 CP the turn he comes out seems fine to me. But yeah, it is a little bit of a toolboxy card. If we had a sideboard in this game, it would be a nutty card.
100%.
But I think Earth can afford to run just one of these and be okay. You have things like a Jito. If you want to get it back after you pitched it, you have things like Scholar. You could even search it with Rydia if you want to go that far down, but I don't know if you're really doing that. For me, this takes up your Hecaton slot probably. I feel like that's like the one of that and Carbuncle are like one ofs in like Earth Windless, and I could see this maybe making it there as a way for them to easily kill Yuri and Galdus. But maybe not. Maybe the Hecaton is more important or the Carbuncle is more important for the tricks you can do. But I can see it being in that slot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Next one was Joseph Fear's spoiler, actually. So it's a 3 CP Wind Monster, Death Gaze. Death Gaze 9, actually, so it's not the same Death Gaze. When he enters the field, choose a forward opponent controls, remove it from the game for as long as Death Gaze is on the field.
I think the card's really good. It's essentially an Oblivion Ring, and the fact that it costs 3 gets it over so much monster hate. And at this point, it's a card that's super hard to interact with at this point. So you can take a problem forward, remove it from the game, and that copy is just pretty much out of commission.
Yep, and you can you can also do really tricky stuff with this. So first off, I think this card is probably busted good. Like really good.
I think it's really, really good. I agree with that 100%.
I hate that it's a green card, like a lot. Like I don't think that they deserved hard removal at this point, really. Like I know we were complaining about it like 1 or 2 sets ago, but like at this point, I don't think they should be allowed to have it.
I will say, in the defense of it being a green card, I think because decks with green the lists are kind of tight.
Sure.
I think what makes it hard is finding a spot for this, but I promise you, it'll find its way into lists with green cards.
Yeah, I think you just don't run 3 Chaos Walkers anymore. Probably you treat this like a summon slot almost, and it's a unique. It's a unique guy, so you're not gonna play this more than once a game, really. But when you are able to play it once a game, is when I think he gets really busted. So I don't know if people are aware of these interactions, but I'll let you know really quick. So the way Dorgan works, right? If Dorgan removes a forward from the field, and then they play that same forward and Dorgan dies, the forward that he removed initially stays removed because it's illegal to come back on the board. If he's removed 2 of the same name, when they come back, they both come back and then they both die, right? So Death Gaze kind of works similar to the first instance I said. So what you can do is say you remove a Dataluma from the game and then they play their second Dataluma, you can then, if you have a way to bounce your Death Gaze through ways...
You use Mion.
Yeah, you could use Mion, you could use Orator. There's a few other ways to bounce Bismarck. Put it back in your hand. That Dataluma is now RFG for the rest of the game. And then you can replay the same Death Gaze and remove the one that's on the field. So now they're 2 Datalumas down, and if they do it a 3rd time and you have another way to do it, you can just do it again, and now all their Datalumas are just out of the game. So for me, that interaction is what puts it over the top. I think if you can do and that works in Wind Water. It works in Mono Wind too if you just want to play Mion there.
Well, and that's also the fact that if you're just running a 1 of, which 1 or 2 of at the most, when you're ready to start doing that nonsense, you just Mog special for it, grab it, and then let it rip.
Yep, and I think you only need to run really 2 because I think you want to see it, but obviously you can't play it multiple times a game. So I think 2 is where you want to be. But I think the card is insane. I think it's probably going to be one of the better cards in the set, and I hate that it's a green card.
Oh, and it's insane and limited. I know how people this past week were talking about how there's not really many answers for Arden in limited. Well, guess what? There most certainly is.
I do think they're actually doing a good job of limited in this set, I will say.
I agree with that 100% as well, for sure.
So the next one is another fire card. It's Yatsuyu. She's a 2CP, backup, category 14. For a fire tap, choose one forward of cost 5 or less. It cannot block this turn.
I think this card's good. I know when we first talked about it, I read it wrong, and I was like, Red Mage is just better, and I didn't realize it costs 1 less.
Yep.
Yeah, granted, you're missing some targets here. You're missing your 6 and 7 CP forwards, but most of the relevant targets are 5 or less. So I think in decks, red decks, where you were running like multiple copies of Red Mage and maybe Ninja, I think one of those takes a hike in favor of this card. Probably the Red Mage, because you can just Ninja the big bodies for the turn. You need them out of the way. And then you can just use Yasutsu, whatever.
Yatsuyu.
Yeah, you can just use her to get rid of whatever else is in the way for one, and still leave a backup open.
Yep, and I think it makes it easier to play off 2 backups, whereas Red Mage kind of needs to play off 3.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's important for a deck like the Mono Fire Wool deck.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think it's a good card.
I think she's really good. I think she'll see play as long as fire is good. And I think we are seeing good fire cards, so I really hope that it's going to be good. But we'll see. I'll hold my judgment until we actually start playing. So the next one was the Turk's spoiler. It was a regular Fina, another one. So she has like 3 cards this set basically. Job White Mage, category Brave Espius. When she enters the field, choose a wind character you control, activate it, and when she's put from the field to the break zone, choose one character you control, activate it.
I don't think she's terrible. The fact that the legendary Fina exists kind of hurts this one a lot, but I still think this card has a lot of merit. Like the fact that you can like get some Cactar uses out of it, stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's fine.
And then the fact that like when she leaves, it's any characters that's not really color restricted. It's decent. Yeah. But I think she's in a very, very crowded slot, right? Like Y'shtola, Zidane, Chelenka. Yeah, it's going to be really hard for her, in my opinion, to find a spot. Maybe in like Wind Lightning should be good.
Maybe.
But, I mean, we'll see. I don't think she's a bad card.
Yeah, not at all.
And I think she's a pretty solid limited card.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I agree. All solid points. I definitely agree.
Next card was new Alisei. It's a 2CP backup, Scion of the 7th Dawn. Card name Alphino you control gains 1,000 power, and then just for a dull, you can choose a card name Alphino you control. It gains haste until end of turn.
Card's got the wrong name. Moving on.
I think in Mono Lightning she might be able to see some play. It depends on how good the forward Alphino is, because now what you can do is replace the Alphino in there with this card and play the forward Alphino, and use Sid Previa to get Louis Swa to get this to go to 3 really fast. And then you have a forward that you could buff off of that. Whereas like Alphino was kind of meh in Mono Lightning, like he wasn't great. But if this can partner with the forward Alphino and the forward Alphino is decent, I could see it seeing play there. But in Scions, you're not playing this card. The 4 CP is literally what makes the deck work. But in title, could be good.
Yeah, we'll see. It's really going to depend on what the Alphanod forward looks like.
I think so too. If he stinks, then I don't think she's going to see play at all. But I mean, we'll see. Then next up, we got a new Paladin backup. It's a 2CP water backup, category 14, standard unit, all that good stuff. For water tap break, choose one forward you control and one other forward you control. During this turn, the next damage dealt to the former is received by the latter.
I think you could do some really like tricky stuff with that. Like, I think if you're playing like some kind of like earth water deck with forward Shantoto, they're clearly going to do what they can to avoid hitting that one, and now you can be like, nope. Or you can like have it go to like to Dataluma. Like you can do some real tricky stuff with that, I think.
Yeah, you can like filter your own stuff to Dataluma, filter submitted ability damage maybe to a Y'shtola. Again, I think these plays are cool in theory, but I don't know if
where are they going.
Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna put this card in that deck. Maybe like you said, Earth Water is where it wants to be. Maybe you can do some cool things there with like Noctis or something. I'm not really sure. I want to like it. I think it's decent, but I don't know if it's gonna make the final cut in a lot of decks. I think that's my issue.
It's more cute than anything.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Because I'd rather just play Minwoo and avoid all the damage completely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Which is, we'll get to another card when we want to talk about that. But then next up we got the 2 CP Ice Backup Black Mage, best art in the set already. Category 11. So for the low cost of 2 Ice, 3 colorless, tap and break, you can choose a Dull 4 to deal 9k.
Talk about value. No, we're just going. This card's bad. We're just going to move right along.
It's a lot like the Lightning Black Mage, I think, in where its effect is very expensive, but it's on a low-cost backup. I think that's the idea. And I guess if you really want to make that Black Mage deck work, here's another card. Or not a Black Mage deck, but like work with the other Black Mage backups kind of thing. But again, I don't see this seeing too much play. Really, 5 CP's a lot.
Yeah.
So, and a break. You're losing a backup, too. So.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. 100%.
Next up, we got a backup that I'm going to attempt to pronounce, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to pronounce it wrong because I didn't really play Final Fantasy 11. Shamond P. Garuch. I don't know, man. That's probably wrong.
Oh, Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah, but he's a 2 CP water backup, category 11. If forwards you control receive 1,000 damage, the damage becomes 0 instead.
I think the card is neat in conjunction with some things. But obviously, if you're playing a standard constructed deck and you're worried about 1,000 damage, you're already just like playing Minwoo. But one of the things that maybe this helps out where Minwoo doesn't is like a Barbarisha play where she comes in, reduces something to 1,000, and then they cactar it.
Yeah, sure.
The Minwoo's still going to kill it. This won't, but again, it's much like the other cute water backup. Where are you putting it?
Yeah, I think that's the issue. Like, it does some cute things, I guess, but I think the other one is way cuter, I guess, if that's like a way to put it.
Oh, yeah.
I think if this had just said any forward, we'd be in business. I think this card would be super playable if it said any forward.
Yeah, because it would stop the Dottaluma nonsense. Or, since we're talking about Oscar the Grouch, if he was just his chapter's counterpart, it'd be even more busted.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, like, as is, like, I think he's kind of meh. It's cool with, like, damage reduction stuff, I guess. But other than that, like, how often are you receiving exactly 1,000 damage? Probably Cactuar is the main thing. But that deck also runs Dottaluma and, like, probably maybe Chalinka and stuff like that. So
exactly.
I don't really know if you're going to play this just to stop, like, Diabolus plus Cactuar and Barbarisha plus Cactuar, you know, so.
Yeah, you're definitely not, so.
Yeah. Next spoiler was a 2 CP Dark Knight backup, category 14. So it seems like the standard units from the set are category 14. Yep. I don't think that's going to affect title very much, to be honest.
No. No, because they're all, like, off. Well, this one could because, like, this one could be playable because it is on color.
I think you're just better off playing Scions, though, right? And Minors.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is very true.
But yeah, this card's okay, I guess. It's Earth and colorless, tap, break, choose a forward, until a turn it gains 1,000 power for each point of damage you've received.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine. I think it'd be cute with, like, Noctis. That's the first thing I think of. Like, this thing on a Noctis at, like, 5 or 6 points of damage means he's just blowing something away.
Yeah, for me, I think Monk's just a better card.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because Monk is going to give you something static at every point in the game.
Yeah, this is only better than Monk, like, on 4 points of damage, I guess, somewhere around there, because you don't get the Brave. So, yeah, I'm pretty meh on it, like I said. Like, I think Monk only really saw play because people wanted to play 2 CP Earth backups, and that's still a little bit of a problem. Like, there's not too many really, really good 2 CP Earth backups. They're all very specific in what they do.
Yeah, no, I agree.
They're not a lot of, like, generically good, but Earth's high-end backups are very generically good. So
yeah, well, I'll tell you, Earth definitely got us really, really solid 2 CP backup that we'll get to.
That is true, which is actually the next card, so we'll do that right now. So it's a 2 CP Earth backup. His name is Lyle. I don't know how you say it.
Lyle!
Tap, put him in the break zone, choose a summon, cost 4 or less, cancel its effect.
Card's just really, really solid. That's it's a good 2 CP backup for Earth that is probably good in almost any matchup because there's a lot of great summons are 4 or less. Yeah, you're not hitting Diabolos or Phoenix, but you're hitting Baby Phoenix. You're hitting all the Ramus. You're hitting all the Leviathans. You're hitting Cuckoo Lane. You're hitting, your Famfrits. You're hitting You're hitting 4 CP Odin. This thing stops a lot.
Yeah, to me, it's a better version of like the Opus 4 summoner, kind of. You just don't have the standard unit tag. Like, you don't have that multi-unit. But you hit a higher cost of summon, which is more relevant right now.
Yeah, and it's cheaper, too. It's just tap and break, right?
Both of those are tap and break.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're both cost 2. They're just in different elements.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think the card's really solid.
Yeah, I think it's going to definitely see play, for sure.
Yeah, and just because it's just a good 2 CP backup that Earth just doesn't have, and when you want to use it, it doesn't cost you the rest of your backup line to use it.
Yep.
So I think it's good.
Yep. Next was the card of the week. It's the last card of the week before the set came out, and it's a new Zidane, but he's water. He's a 2 CP, 3,000 power. If you have 6 or more cards in hand, he can't be blocked. Whenever he deals damage to the opponent, you draw 2 cards. And then he has an S, so Zidane finally has an S. Solution 9 for S, 2 water. Choose a forward until end of turn it loses 2,000 power for each card in your hand.
I don't know what to think about this card. I think it's good, but I just don't know how good it is. And I think this is just because I see all the positives, like it's drawing you cards. The fact that you can do your turn, draw, attack with him before you start playing cards. So you're like gonna, you're almost always gonna have the 6 or more cards in your hand. So you're gonna attack, do damage, draw 2 more cards, and then it just opens up your second main phase or even the rest of that combat phase. I think the card is really, really. I think it's amazing in title as well, which seems to be the focus here for 9. But I don't know. I know the fact that it's a Lina target is huge. I don't know. I can't wait to see what people do with it. I do think it's good. I just don't know how good it is. And this isn't me saying that I don't think it'll see play. I think it'll see play. I just don't know where and in what capacity.
Yeah, so I kind of went through stages on this card. When I first saw it, I was like, it's okay, but it's really easy to kill. Then I started thinking of ideas of like really broken things that this card can do. So I think that this card is busted, actually. I don't think it's like super busted. Like, I'm not saying like Deep Bolos like that level, but the only thing is he's only really busted early, I think. However, if this guy hits one time, just one time, it's gonna snowball like crazy. So I think his best home, at least in my opinion, right now, based on what I've looked at, is Water Fire.
Oh yeah.
I think the ideal turn 1, obviously, you get this down, you play a Sage, you haste him. At that point, your opponent has to have an answer. And a lot of times, a lot of colors, if they want to kill him instantly, are going to have to do it very inefficiently on turn 1. Yep. Red cards probably have the best answers to him.
Yep.
There are a few, and they've even printed a few in this set that we haven't gotten to yet. But again, like, I feel like they're gonna probably spend around 4 CP, which is what you just spent to kill him, if they kill him at all. And if they don't kill him, you're gonna go back to 4 cards in hand. The next turn, you're gonna draw to 6, and it doesn't matter what forward they play. They again have to deal with him before he hits them again.
Yep, I think he is an insane turn 1 play, and I also wasn't even thinking, with Water Fire, you can slam him down off of an Aegis if need be. Granted, you're talking. No, he costs 2. You can play him off.
Yeah, that's what I said. You can. So if you have
you can't. Yeah.
No, you can. So if you have like Godot, right, and you play Aegis into this guy, you can then haste this guy, and he's a 5k as well. Not that the 3k to 5k is going to make that much difference. It lets him survive Valifor, I guess.
But still, that turn 1 with a Sage is, and you know me, a turn 1 forward with Sage is music to my ears.
I think he might be.
I think he just gets out of control.
I think he might be the best Sage target you could play on turn 1. That I might go that far, just because he also, if you play him with red cards, he gives them something they can't really innately do right now, which is card advantage, right?
Yeah, and they refill the grip. They literally refill the grip.
And then they're just going to shove 2 CPs down your throat, right? I feel like some kind of Water Fire with 2 CPs maybe. I don't know what other 2 CPs they're going to run. Obviously, in that deck, you're probably not playing Lina. And I do think he's a very good Lina target. But, again, if you're playing him off Lina, you're going to play him later in the game where he's easier to deal with, in my opinion.
I think if you're playing him in Water Fire, you're probably playing him off of a Godot.
Oh yeah,
Godot, Aegis.
Aegis, or you're just playing him turn 1. However, in any deck that he's in, you can literally play him turn 1 and pass with no backup, and they again have to deal with him, or you're going to draw to 6 because they can't play a forward just to respond to him at that point. They have to kill it. And again, on turn 1, they're probably it's going to be inefficient for them, or you're going to draw 4 cards next turn.
Yeah, exactly. As I was going to say, you go turn 1 pass. If you don't have the Sage, you attack next turn. When you draw to 6, you attack. You can't be blocked. Then you draw to 8.
Yep.
And then you're just like, well, I have a lot of stuff to do here.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the card is really, really good. And I can't wait to see what happens with him. It just kind of holds true. All the Zidanes are just all really, really good.
And I know that people are also saying, like, well, like at first I was one of those people too. I was like, oh, well, you just sneeze on him and he dies, right? But the thing is, like, he only costs 2. So, like, even if you sneeze on him with something that costs 2 and he dies, we broke even with each other.
Yeah, and if your opponent is wasting a Valifor on that guy. Okay.
Exactly. Or if they Odin hit or something, you came out ahead.
Yeah.
Like...
I think the only summon that may feel bad for you as the Zidane player, but again, at the worst you're breaking even, is the 2 CP Ifrit that does like 6k to something.
I think the best, most efficient way to kill this actually is backup VV. Because you develop a backup and you kill him. So the player that played the VV actually is coming out ahead.
Yeah.
But almost every other situation I can think of, they're pitching cards from hand to deal with this guy. And probably playing something they don't want to play that early. That's just my thought process on him. Even though he's only a 3k, I think he's nuts. And then on top of that, like, his S can be very relevant too.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't require him to duel. Yeah. Oh, in title, it's going to be probably insane. But yeah, I'll stop gushing over that dude a little bit. I'm definitely looking at playing him in multitudes of decks, I think.
Because I think he's good. I think he's really a good card.
Next up is another cool card that I actually really liked. It's a 2CP Water Monster. It's a Whale Zombie. Another 9 card. I think it will be a really good title card. When Whale Zombie enters the field, draw a card. Put it into the break zone. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck. Put these to the top or bottom in any order.
Dude, the fact that you can like stack those, you can play it, stack the ability, break it, scry 2, draw a card, seems really good.
Yeah, you basically you basically get to pick what you draw. You have your option of 2 cards or a mystery 3rd card. That's kind of where it is. It's very recurable with Gal if you really want to go that route. With Mira, this costs 1, which seems kind of nuts. I think it's really good in the right deck. I think you just have to have things that you really want to draw. Like, I mean, because you're probably playing this like and Porum, but you're not getting the body that's attached with Porum or the ability as well. Like, this is literally just a draw spell. That's what this is.
Yep.
But I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. I think it's solid. I think it's absolutely solid.
Then next we had a Fire Standard unit. It's a Samurai, 3CP 7k. If you've received 3 points of damage or more, it has Brave. If you've received 5 points of damage or more, it gains 1,000 power.
I mean, it's fine. It's just like a lot of the other Samurais that they've done. It seems just right on theme. I feel like this is like one of those filler, like, limited bodies where you're like, I'm in Fire, I'll take that.
Yeah, I think in Limited it's good. In Standard, I think it's terrible.
What category is it?
14. I think all the Standard units are
I wish it was 11. Oh, I wish it was 11.
Yeah, you have Ayame in 11. Okay. So, like, Ayame is this card, but better. Ayame at 5 points gains 3,000 power, so she becomes a 10k.
Yeah, and I wanted it more so for 11 because of Valkyr.
Yeah. I'm just saying, Ayame is a better version of this card.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And she's the same cost, same power, and I think her ability is better. But in Limited, I think this card's fine.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Then another spoiler from JFB. I really like this card too. Janai or Janae, if you want to call him.
Oh, Janae.
But he's a 4CP lightning forward, 4,000 power, so he's under curve, obviously. FF Legends. Back attack, first strike, and when he enters the field, deal 4k to something.
You know I'm a sucker for cards with back attack. I think the card's good. I think it's a very lightning type of card.
I think this is the first legit back attack card we've seen. Like, legit. Like, I think Scarmaglione was cute, and I've played him a few times, and he's worked, and he's done fun things.
But this guy does something when he comes in. I think he is affecting the board state when he comes in.
Well, he's going to kill an 8k. So if you play him, unless they have Minwoo, it's a way to prevent damage, you're going to pay 4 CP essentially to kill an 8k. Leave a body behind that also has first strike that stacks well with your other damage dealing effects that you're going to have later on. I think he's really good. And then again, you can play him for pseudo haste at the end of your opponent's turn if you wanted to go that route. He's FF Legend, so he combos well with like Diana.
Yeah. So when he dies, you can just put him right back into your hand. And like I said, it's one of those things like, when you get him back with Diana, it's in your hand, so now your opponent has to play around that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and even if they also have to. I could just play them at regular speed too, right? Or during the combat phase, like a summon. Yeah, I think he's pretty nuts. Actually, I think he's really good and an insane limited card.
Yeah, I agree. I think Gen A is getting the job done.
Then next up was the first of 2 Dragoons, actually, that we saw. This one's from Meta Potion. It's a Category 14, 4CP, 8K. If you have 3 or more Job Dragoons or card name Dragoon, this Dragoon gains haste and first strike.
I think the card's fine. It makes you really wish there were like backup Dragoons. But I think the card's fine. I just don't know if you're playing like a dedicated Dragoon deck. I don't know if this guy is in it.
I don't think he makes the cut. I really don't.
No.
I think there's enough ways to get the other 2 things to pay less than 4 CP. Again, if there were backups, I think there would be more merit to him.
Yeah, I agree. But now, the other Dragoon 100% makes the cut.
Yeah, so that's actually next. So it's a 3 CP Dragoon, obviously 7K, Category Tactics Advance. The cost required to play Dragoon onto the field is reduced by 1 for each Job Dragoon or card name Dragoon you control. It cannot become 0.
So the reason I like this guy is you can play the 2-drop Dragoon that gets buffed for other Dragoons. Play 2 of those in this guy for 5 CP. You've put 3 huge bodies on the board.
Oh yeah. I think it's really good. And again, they're probably going to be bigger than their printed power. And if you have Kane, they're all going to be like fucking like 12Ks or something.
Yeah, and then if you got Barbara out, they're all going to have haste. And if you've got the Water Warrior of Light out, they're all going to be bigger, and they're all going to have first strike. So it's like, I think these cards just really this card just keeps pushing Dragoons as like a really nice budget tribal build that I feel like they print a card that keeps making them better, but I feel like they're missing something.
Well, I feel like they keep printing the same stuff, right? Like it's just like, oh, well, here's a dude that costs 2 or 3 or 1, and they're a Dragoon, and they're going to get bigger. And like that's their whole thing, is that they're just going to get big, but they don't do anything else. That's like Barbara was the first card where it's like, oh, she does other things. Like she can buff Dragoons and she gives them all haste. They need more cards like that. Or a backup that just does something good for them. Something that lets them develop a resource and it gains them a reason to play more Dragoons.
Yep. I agree with that 100%. And maybe that'll come down the stretch. Maybe we will eventually get a backup Dragoon.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah, then the next spoiler was a 2CP Yuffie forward. She's a 5K, Category 7, Job Ninja. If you have 3 or more Category 7 characters other than Yuffie, she has plus 2,000 power and haste, and when she attacks, deal 1,000 power to all 4, or 1,000 damage, sorry, not 1,000 power, to all forwards opponent controls.
I like the card. She definitely is rivals with old Oscar P. Grouch or whatever his name is.
Sure, but I don't think you're going to run into that card in a lot.
No, never. I think this card is really solid. I think this card is really, really solid.
Yeah, I think even in like a win deck, right, you could probably play Aerith and maybe something else with this. Now you're swinging for 7K haste, and then she combos well with like Barbarisha in that instance. I think in Wind Ice you could play this off Shulk. That's basically, if you have any backup that's Category 7, again, you just played a 3CP, a 2CP, 12K worth of power on the board, and one of them has haste. And you made them discard a card. That seems okay. And again, in Title, she's probably always going to be a 7K with haste. So the issue the issue is if we're building this in a 7 deck, is she going to be better than the free Yuffie offensive? Like, I need to like hold judgment for that, but I think on her own she's pretty decent.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a solid card.
Then next up, hold up. Next up we had Selkie. That was a weird one. This was a Grand J spoiler. It's a standard unit, but I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with Crystal Chronicles like talking about, so maybe it's like kind of just a generic unit in that game. When it's put from the field to the break zone, your opponent puts the top 2 cards of his or her deck into the break zone. If both cards of the same type, draw a card.
Well, they definitely want to make Mill a thing. I think it's a good support card if you're trying to play some kind of like dedicated Mill deck, but otherwise I feel like Riku just kind of dominates this spot for a card that's just dedicated Mill.
Yeah, so the thing about Riku, and I try to explain this to other people as well, is she's kind of like gives you a secondary win condition, as well as just having her name, which is relevant. other than that, like, or like being able to interrupt Facilias and things like that when people are trying to manipulate the top of their deck. Other than that, like, you're really not milling people out in this game, and it's really hard to do that even though we draw 2 cards a turn. Obviously, there are decks that are easier to mill out if they're playing like Layla Viking with a lot of recursion, or even Windwater can draw a ton of cards. But even then, a lot of times, if you try to mill them out, they're probably just going to kill you before you get to that point. So it's really hard, and I just don't see, at least right now, that there's enough to make some kind of dedicated mill deck, but more power to you if you want to try.
Yeah, I agree.
But I don't even know if she makes the cut, to be honest. She's a slow mill. So next up, we got Rain, the fire one that we had seen art for previously. He's a 3 CP7K, Job Knight. When he enters the field or attacks, choose a forward. If you pay 1 fire, deal it 3,000 damage.
I think the card's good. Obviously, he kind of mirrors Laswell.
Yep.
So between him and Laswell, you know, they're putting 4K onto something when they both attack. So, like, it's where you can attack with one, attack with the other. That's potentially 4K on something, and something has been dull and frozen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you could play those two main one, or you can attack with them, put 4K on something, dull and freeze it, and then main 2 Sid Reigns, kill it, and whatever. Like, I think you've got a lot of options there. I think he's good, and the fact that he's a knight is really relevant too.
Yeah, I think he's also good. Maybe the fact that he's knight, maybe Garland might see some light of day. He also combos well with Dark Lord. I'll point that out. Yeah. It's not terrible, but I still don't know if I like removing Tid cards from game. Maybe if you do get to that point where Kageyama said, where it's like they're cards you're not going to see anyways, you're going to win before then. But like once you play that second Dark Lord or he gets bounced, it's going to feel real bad. But I think he's solid. I think he stands on his own, really. He can
not bad for just a rare, too. I think he's just a rare, something like that.
He is just a rare. He deals with Layla or Viking like kind of by himself just for the cost of 1 CP, which is pretty cool. Assuming they don't have, or assuming Layla doesn't have buffs. Maybe if you're playing this with like a Roja, you're pinging for 4K. That becomes more relevant as well.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Maybe you're playing a Roja and Palom and you're pinging for 5K. Maybe you're playing Sage in that deck and then you're pinging for 7K. I don't know, but like you can do a lot of things that are pretty cool. And I think
I think the card's solid.
Yeah, I think he's a solid card. Then the next card was I feel like a lot of people flipped over this too. So it's Melt to Gemini. I don't know how to say the name. It's a boss from 9. It's like Zorn and Thorn when they combine. So it's a monster, 2 CP, Cat 9 obviously. The power of forwards cannot be increased by summons or abilities.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say this thing is a ball buster in title. 12, I feel like now is an auto loss against that until 12 has a way to deal with monsters. I think they just straight up lose to that card. I think it's neat. It's a matter of what decks are going to cut stuff to play it. Obviously, there are some decks that suffer from that, like decks that rely heavily on anthems, like standard units. Carbuncle decks really get left out in the cold. But the thing is, those decks have answers for it. If you're playing a Carbuncle deck, all of a sudden now they're just jamming a couple Psycom Enforcers in there, and you just don't worry about the card anymore. If you're playing Windwater standard units, you can slap Nash in there. You don't have to worry about it
Nash
anymore.
Is only 1, right? Or no, my bad.
No, Nash
right.
gets 2 or less monsters.
The forward is 1 or less. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So you've got options. Do I think the card is very? I think the card is very, very interesting, and I think it's a card that you have to think about now.
Yep.
Like I don't really know what to say because now like all of your buffs are gone. All of your combat tricks could be gone, especially if you go to a tournament and monster hate now is something that you have to carry in every deck. I don't know if you have to go as extreme as like Sin, but I feel like if you're playing Lightning, you better be on 3 Ramus. If you're playing Earth, you better have at least 1 Psycom Enforcer in there. If you're on Wind, you better have at least 1 or 2 copies of Nash in the deck.
I think it really just depends on how much your deck cares about boosting, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Like Earth Wind, for example, I don't think they care.
Wind Water doesn't either.
You play this is probably hurting you more than it hurts them, unless you probably built your deck in a way where this doesn't hurt you though, which is interesting, and I think that's cool. For title, I think it's very interesting because in title, making your dudes bigger is a big deal, and that's like how you generally will win. And being able to shut off things like a lot of things 12 want to do with like their Ondor and Fran, or Yida. Yida gets hit the worst. Yida becomes a 2CP 2K that does nothing else. And then I mean it shuts off backups. It even shuts off like summons like Belias if you're trying to get the 1K to get over. So it does a lot in title. It does some cool stuff, and there are some decks that do get kind of boned from this, but it's gonna force those decks to run monster removal. Like I think the Monofire Wool deck will have trouble with this because they rely on a lot of boosting to get over, a lot of like buffs with their Warriors of Light. So maybe they're gonna be forced to run Zell, which kind of sucks and does weaken the deck a little bit in my opinion. But like like Earth Wind or any type of Earth variant is just gonna jam Psycoms and not care.
And like the Carbuncle deck is fine because it's a 7K, which still keeps it at that sweet spot. So you actually don't mind playing that guy. You don't want to, but if this is going to be something that it's going to be out there, you kind of have to.
You have to play around it because it's a thing. I mean, I don't think it's a bad card. I just think that there's a lot of things that deal with it in standard, and Ramu in any Lightning deck is typically a 3-of, so like it just dies to that. So you also have to be careful. Like if you have this out and people are swinging at you, you got to think of like, okay, can I kill this and then buff their dude or whatever like that. So it kind of goes both ways. And when you're running this, you can't run buffs. So like for example, people are like, oh, I'll run it in a monster deck. Okay, cool. So your Gal's just gonna be 6K the entire time. You're gonna play a 5CP 6K.
Exactly. Feels real bad.
Yeah, so, I mean, Gal's a big part of those, even the 3-color and 2-color variants. Gal's a big part of those, and Gal just sitting at 6K hurts. And
unless you're playing a variant like Sam has, where you really like Zagnol and Big Dumpy are your primary beaters.
And even then he runs Gal, right? I think he runs Gal.
He runs Gal to like recycle like pot cats and all the 2CP stuff that he brings with Kefka. But even still, like Gal just being a big body, you want him there.
Yeah, and so for me, it hurts Gal enough to like I don't know. Like it's interesting though. It is an interesting card. It does a lot of interesting things. It does say increased only, so you can still decrease power with like Bismarcks and things like that, but you just can't increase the power. So like, I mean, maybe this is really good against Ash, right? I didn't even think about that till just now.
Ash can't do anything. Her card is pretty much blank at this point, except
you just keep targeting her.
Yourself.
Yeah, you just keep targeting her, and you don't care. So that's interesting. I think it's a really interesting card. It's a card you're gonna have to think about when you're building your deck. And it's definitely something you're gonna have to play to and expect if people start playing it. But again, another thing I just want to touch on before we get off this card is it's not multi-unit, so you can only have one out, and also I don't really see anybody playing more than 2 of this in their deck, really. So.
And I agree, and it goes back to, in waterless like that, what are you cutting to put it in there?
Yep. Next up is Luminous Puma. It's a 5CP monster, category 13. When it enters the field, choose a forward in your break zone, add it to your hand. Put it in the break zone, choose a forward or backup in your break zone, add it to your hand.
When I saw this one, I just kind of looked over it. I wish it didn't cost 5.
Yeah, it's really expensive. I think that's the thing, is cost. Its effect is good. But it costs is high.
I guess technically it costs 3 if you're getting a card back in your hand.
Well, and then you can break it. You can also break it. So technically it costs 1, but it's like after the fact.
Yeah, because can't you tap it? Like you can tap 3, pitch a forward, play it, get the forward back. Kind of like how you do with minor, where you you pitch 2 cards and one of them's a backup. You play minor, you get the backup back.
But the difference is minor is a resource that you gain by playing a backup. Yeah. This does nothing. It just sits there. It's the same with Minfilia, right? Minfilia gets the same amount of cards back, but she's also developing a backup. This is not developing anything unless you're trying to up your monster count, but you're breaking it, so you're really not doing that. I don't see it making up a slot. I mean, it's more recursion, which is cool. But it's just, it's too expensive for me, I think.
Yeah, it feels like a limited recursion spell.
Oh, in limited, I think this thing's probably pretty good because now you can get back your big target guys that you pitched or, died early game.
Let you get Arden back if somehow they found a way to get him out of your hand or you had to discard him to something, whatever.
Yeah, so, it's decent, I think, but it's...
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Right, so we're getting to the finish line a little bit. There's a couple more left, and then we could actually talk. I know we're already like an hour in. But
it's fine.
It's so we got a lightning legendary, the second one. It's a 5 CP forward. It's a 4K power. So very undercurve. Sakura, Brave XVS. We've seen this art actually. When she enters the field, choose an active forward. Opponent controls, deal it 8,000 damage. Dull 5 active lightning backups, choose a forward, break it.
So here's the question: Does this kind of go the same route? Well, I think given like the comparison, I think it's better than Palom, the Opus 5 legendary.
Yeah,
but again, it's like, yeah, you're probably killing something on the turn it comes in, but it kind of goes back to the same stuff we were talking about with with Noel in the Change My Mind video. Lightning just has so many better big drops that I don't know. I mean, maybe you could get away with this as like a one of, but I don't know, because I feel like it's going to come into play. It's going to kill something most likely, but then it's probably just going to die before you can really use its second effect.
Yeah, I think it might warrant a one of. I'm not a huge fan of it, but maybe as a one of, like, you could hard cast it, 4 cards in hand, pitch 3, play this, and then dull your 5 backups to kill 2 things.
Yeah.
But at that point, like, play Raiden, I think.
Yeah, because you're breaking something and removing something.
Yeah, Raiden's a lot harder to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not a huge fan. But I do think
actually Raiden's cheaper.
Raiden is cheaper, yeah, because that's 11 CP minimum. What I just said instead of 9. Yeah, I guess the ideal is, right, you play her and she lives, and then you start doing things. Because the thing about Palom is he doesn't really, his like other effect that like lasts the turn after he comes out is not good. It's like pay 2 or 3 to deal something like 1,000 or something like that. That's bad.
And this is reusable, which is nice.
At least like killing something is a big deal, even at the cost of dulling 5 backups. That's cheaper than an Odin. So like,
and on the plus side too, when you have a body like this, always remember there's a card called Zemus that exists.
Sure, I mean, so it's expensive. It's an expensive target. Here's my thing though. The one defense I think positive for it as far as its low body. If your opponent is spending removal on this, it's less removal they're spending on Estinian and stuff like that.
Correct.
So maybe you're running
and Zemus in that regard.
Correct. So maybe you're running this in an extension with those. And but I don't know if I'm running more than one though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think it's a one of fun of.
Yeah, but it's interesting. All right, next was a new Titan summon, category 11. So 1 CP, EX burst. Choose a forward, tell end of turn, it gives 1,000 power for each Earth backup you control.
It's fine. I don't really think it's going to do much. It's kind of like Golem, but worse. But right now, Earth summons are pretty tight.
Yeah.
And you're probably not playing this to buff your guys, because ideally your guys are going to be bigger anyway. And if you're playing a deck where you want your guys to be bigger in Earth cards, you're probably just playing some kind of carbuncle deck.
I agree. Yeah, I just don't think it's worth a slot. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's worth a slot in your deck. And then our last spoiler for the day up until now, there can't be too many left, is a 2 CP summoner. It's a lightning backup, category 14. When it enters the field, choose 1 lightning forward until end of turn. It gains haste and first strike.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine. It's like Sage, but different. I don't know if this is worth running like Red Mage over, or Lightning runs Red Mage. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's fine and limited if you've got like if the stars align and you're able to play good Lightning cards. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
It's a 2 CP backup, so it's never bad.
It's like a more limited Sage, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that.
The way I see it, but it's purple instead of red. It's okay. I can't really say too much more about it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Now, you did say that was the last one. You actually forgot one. There was a great spoiler that was spoiled by the RVA returners.
Yeah, you're right. Those guys. I forgot. I was looking through just like pictures that were posted, and I forgot our own spoiler. That's pretty sad.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, we made the video on it. It's a 2 CP fire backup. It's Edgar, and he's category 6 Job King. He is the tap him, give a category 6 forward plus 1,000. Obviously, I think these cards are great for the categories they come in. I think this Edgar's really good for title. Obviously, you can hear us talk more about this on our video for it, so check that out. But otherwise, I think it's a fine card.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, I think just check the video out if you want to see more opinions, but I think it's okay too.
Yep. So that's all the spoilers, and that's we might get 1 or 2 this week, but pre-releases this weekend coming up.
Yeah, full set release is coming soon for sure.
Yeah, so I'll be willing to bet we see this full set released on Friday.
Yeah.
Maybe someone gets loose and pulls it out Thursday, but at least Friday we'll be seeing the rest of the cards.
Yep.
So I'm really excited. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to miss pre-release this weekend because I've got family obligations. But I know Daniel's setting a kit aside for me, and I'll probably get the starter decks as well. So I'll be getting my stuff. I just won't be able to play with everybody, which sucks. But, whatever.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of brings us to our main topic a little bit. I know we wanted to talk pretty deep, but we're already like an hour in, so we might have to speed it up a tad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we just wanted to say kind of goodbye to Opus 7, I guess.
Yeah, and I thought it was a fine meta. And what better way to say goodbye to the meta than by watching 2 fantastic tournaments this weekend, 3 technically, and talking about what we thought the most impactful card of each element was in this meta.
Yeah, so this is obviously objective. It's like our opinion. There's obviously other cards that are really good, but these aren't necessarily like the best cards in the element. But for me, I think a lot of them are.
And we both made sure we picked a different one because there was clearly more than one for each element. There are 2 exceptions, and obviously when we talk about those, we'll talk about those. But for the most part, every element had multiple cards that were super impactful. And I think we should just dive right in. Do we want to start with Fire, Adam?
Yeah, I think we should go in order. Fire's first.
Go ahead, man. Yeah, you go first.
So for me, it's the Heroic Phoenix, I think. I got a huge boost this set with Starter Warrior of Light and Furion, as well as just the Warrior of Light tribal in mono as a theme. It plays really nice with Godot, which is probably up there for me as well as one of the more impactful fire cards right now. Yeah, Phoenix just does a ton of stuff, and the fact that now you have Warrior of Light starter as a Phoenix target lets you just do some nutty things in combat.
Yeah, and that's actually a perfect segue. We'll just kind of meld these 2 together because mine was the starter Warrior of Light. I thought that card was bonkers from the moment I saw it. The fact that it is a Phoenix target, like you said, and it just creates like if you're playing red cards and you go to combat with the little dudes, your opponent immediately has to look through your break zone, and they if it's there, they have to assume a Phoenix is coming. So either they're going to eat the damage, or they're going to lose their board.
Yep. And
the card's insane.
Yeah, and you can, going back to Phoenix a little bit, you can even do things like attack with a soul or whatever to trade. Phoenix back in another soul, attack again, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, it can do a lot of nutty things.
And it really saw, to touch on Phoenix real quick, one of the best things that, this last set or last meta that came out was that the Earth, Fire, Lawn, Warrior, Light deck that won that Japanese tournament. Using that to the Cryo special, to get Cryos back, and then, because of, again, the 4-drop Cryo from Opus 7 was a Warrior of Light, being able to Cryo special off of a Phoenix was just huge, just absolutely huge.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess going to the next one is Ice. For me, I picked Devout. But I think there's a lot of answers here, and I actually think this is one of the harder ones to pick. The reason I picked Devout is just because my second pick probably would have been Renoa. And Renoa is a Devout target, but Devout also can grab other things like Genesis, like Celis. It just lets you recur so much stuff. It's a backup I think you're seeing at least 2 of now in pretty much any mono ice or any ice list at all. So for me, it was the most important, but I think there's a lot of right answers here, to be honest.
Yeah, and mine was the 7 CP Sephiroth. That card just became such a ball buster against certain strategies, just because you could drop that thing as early as turn 1 or turn 2 and strip your opponent's hand. It was like more expensive turbo discard, but the fact that this guy did stuff after he stripped your hand was huge.
And the fact that he has a special too.
Yeah, that's cheap. Yeah, the card's really good. I thought Sephiroth was a very impactful card. Obviously, he was a big splash in Ice Earth because you could search him in that archetype. Being at the top of the curve in mono ice is also huge as well. I just thought he really defined what top end ice was trying to do in this meta.
Yep, for sure. Then to move on, I guess to Wind, the green color. I not much more to be said than I haven't already said. For me, it's Diabolos. I think it's the best summon in the game. I think Valifor is probably a close second, which is also in the same element.
And that'll segue because my pick was Valifor. We literally have the best 2 summons in the game that, again, go back and watch Robert Phillips play the deck today or over the weekend. Man, just Diabolos and Valifor in conjunction with each other are just unfair.
Yep.
And it's so unfair, and like it costs you just the 2 cards out of your hand.
Yeah, and then I mean maybe a close third. I'll just like honorary mention as Y'shtola. I think those are the 3, probably one of the 3 more busted cards in the game in general. Those 3 cards. Yep. Yeah, I mean they just do too much for what they cost, really. And Valifor gains you CP essentially, so.
It's nuts.
I think Diabolos probably has to be the most played card in this meta, in this meta in general, across any tournament. Diabolos has to be the most played card.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, so then I guess next is Earth. For me, I kind of copped out. I chose Dodaluma. Nothing really crazy. I think he's still just a really strong card. I think Earth Wind is still like the primary Earth deck of choice as far as meta's concerned. And he's the key piece there, so that's kind of why I went with it. Not much more to really be said. I mean, he's still really good.
Yep, and for Earth, I chose Minfilia, just because, recursion was pretty important in the set, just because of all the just insane removal that's going around. But also the fact that it dealt with what I would even say is the most defining card of the meta, and to me, that's Yuri. The fact that it gave you kind of a back-end answer to it, and then you could recur it with Minor to get multiple uses out of it without having to sacrifice your other removal to it. I think Minfilia just became I feel like at least a one-of in almost every Earth and Earth X deck. Like, I feel like if you're playing that element, Minfilia was just an instant one-of in your backup line.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, she's a really solid card. For Lightning, again, I copped out again. I just picked Alua. I feel like she still defines it for me. I think there's a few other things, as well as like the other card that you picked, I think is a fair choice as well. But I think Alua is just the most powerful thing Lightning can do right now. And I don't really see that changing. But maybe I could be proven wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And, and it's kind of funny that you're just kind of the most defining forward for Lightning. The card I picked was Sid Previa. And I think that just changed the way Mono Lightning played their backups, because it used to just be like, 2-drop, maybe like the 1-drop summoners. But now it's like you're looking for a turn 1 or turn 2 Sid Previa into a search backup or into a Lulu. So you're just recouping all that value again, and then you're ramping that much faster. And you're thinning your deck in the process. I just think Sid Previa became such a huge part of the way Mono Lightning builds up. And it's just part of deck construction too, because you'd play that and get, Sid of Clan Gully or King of Burmecia or Ramis. Just being able to Sid Previa into your searcher of choice to just react to the situation, or to Duke Goltana to get the 1 CP Ramza, which was the one I almost picked, because I think that card was insane in Mono Lightning decks this time around. But I think Sid Previa is the card that allow you to kind of create these toolbox situations.
Yeah, and then I guess we can continue on to like the last main element, which is water. And again, I guess maybe this is a little bit of a cop-out again. I picked Yuna R. I think she might be, again, one of the better cards in the game. Like, for me, after those 3 green cards, I might put this card. She just gives water access to something no other element even has anything close to, which is like some like cost reduction on summons just as a backup, even though it's only water. Also, the fact that her name is Yuna and it lets you do things with Valifor is a big deal as well. I think she just grows, and she costs 2, so...
Yeah, there's a reason Wind Water kind of builds itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the card I picked, I think, was a super, super impactful card for Water, because it gave them an answer to things that they didn't previously have, and to me, that's Halicarnassus. This card being able to blank things, like specifically a card like Y'shtola, where outside of like bouncing it and reducing it with like a wide board and a Cloud of Darkness, not really many answers for it. So being able to, and also like Dodaluma, if you're not playing Minwu, which a lot of those decks weren't, being able to play this, blank your opponent's board, then start going to town with Fasoya and things, just really, and also in the mirror match too, like when you could, play Halicarnassus, blank your opponent's forward knight. So now you're like, oh, that's just a 3K. Well, I guess I'll swing with, Cloud of Darkness and kill it, or I'll just Kukulin it or something. Like Halicarnassus really just filled a lot of holes that I think Water decks had.
Yeah, or blank your opponent's Viking too.
Yeah, that's huge. That is so huge. Because that happened to Hunter Nance at Worlds.
Yeah. I mean, it's a ball buster. It sucks. Then the last 2 are Light and Dark. I think we probably have the same ones. You might have a different one for Dark. I'm not sure. But Yuri and Galdus for me.
Yeah, not even close. It's not even close.
Yeah, I think Yuri brought something to light that it kind of desperately needed, to be honest. Like, not that I'm necessarily a fan with everything that it's done, but like light cards, we're just not seeing that much play outside of like the occasional like light Zidane here, which wasn't like you were still probably would rather play Camelot or like maybe a legendary Terra, but like even then like maybe a Warrior of Light, but this was like the first one for me that's just like blew it wide open, I think.
No, I agree with that. And I think if we had to pick one card that I think defined the meta, it was 1,000% Yuri. Like, I don't even think there's a close second. I think
for me, I'd probably put Diabolos, and I would probably put Yuna over it as well, because I think those two cards let the deck function more so than Yuri. I think Yuri just gave them more stuff that they shouldn't have.
Well, I think Yuri gave them the closing power, because otherwise you're playing just a bunch of 7Ks that really can't get over.
You're just playing a bunch of free stuff. Yeah, you're just playing a bunch of free stuff.
Yeah. And also Yuri made Mono Wind an actual deck.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That whole Crystal Chronicles package, but like the fact that Yuri gave abilities to elements that should not have them. Giving a deck with free stuff and all these activations the ability to like dull and freeze things. Mm-hmm. Just to like, because I'd be willing to bet that the dull and freeze was probably Yuri's most used mode. If there was like if you could like find a graph or a chart that talked about Yuri's most used mode, it's probably dull and freeze.
Oh, sure, because it gives access. Those elements have no business having that.
Exactly, and Yuri brought that there, so that's why to me it was the most. It allowed these other cards to like really have a payoff.
Yeah, and then for me, I think Galdus is just a card that shouldn't exist, honestly. Like,
I agree.
I don't know why they printed that card. It's just really, really hard to deal with. It has limited answers. It's above curve, and everything that it does on the way out is relevant. It's just a card you hate to see when it hits the opponent's side of the board, because even though they don't get immediate value out of it, it's really awkward to deal with.
Yeah, and the fact that you can Phoenix it back into play just seems really dumb to me. Like a big Phoenix, but that card's really good.
I mean, both of these cards. Like one last thing I'll say, both of these cards, you could tell they were so good because people are running multiple copies of these light and dark cards in their decks. Before it's like one Cam, one Chaos, maybe one Emperor, right? And now it's like, I'm running 2 Galdus, I'm running 3 Yuri, and they have searchers in some of these decks that they're being raid in, and they're still running that many. It's like that's how good they are.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And so like I think overall, like I think Opus 7 was actually a really, really solid time. For a deck that had a really defined meta, you went to tournaments that didn't play a lot of these decks. But still, like I just think there were, I think, these pieces that put like Wind Earth, Wind Water, I think just straight became just absolute ass beater decks because of these cards that came out. I think Mono Fire finally had its time to shine in the meta for a good while. So I don't know. Like I think Opus 7 was a lot of fun. I think the set overall was really, really good and brought a lot of really neat things. And even the whole Crystal Chronicles package in general made multiple decks viable. Like you could play Wind Earth Crystal Chronicles, Mono Wind Crystal Chronicles, Wind Water Crystal Chronicles, Fire Wind Crystal Chronicles. So it created a package that could stem, a bunch of different archetypes that stem from this one package, which I think is really, really cool and kind of healthy at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it was fine. I was overall a fan of this meta. I think there was a lot of diversity to it, even if I became bored of playing like some of the top tier stuff. But I think as a whole, I was fine with it. I'm not a huge fan of the way that green cards are going to an extent, but I'm not going to call for any bans or anything right now. I just think that as we look further down, there's just going to be things that we have to keep an eye on.
Yep, 100%. And I can't wait to see. I can't wait to get my hands on Opus 8 and kind of see what happens with that.
Yep, I'm right there with you.
But other than that, guys, tell us what you think in the comments or on whatever platform of choice you listen to us. Let us know what cards you think were the most impactful for each element in the meta. There's really no wrong answers here because it's kind of a tale of the tape, really. A lot of cards had a lot of impact. These are just the ones that we thought. But otherwise, Adam, any parting thoughts this week?
I got nothing. Opus 8 pre-release, I guess, is really it.
Yeah. I'm excited. I can't wait for, next week you're going to kind of take the reins on this. I can't wait to hear all about it because I may just save my pre-release kit and open it while we're on the podcast. We'll see what happens. Or maybe just save it and do an opening video with it. I don't know. We got options. Options. So, but otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and sign off because I have been staring at this cheeseburger for the last hour and I cannot wait to shove it down my stupid face.
Sounds good.
Well, with that being said, it's beer o'clock. See y'all later.
See you later.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening once again to the RVA Returners podcast. If you like this content and you want to hear more, check us out on YouTube at RVA Returners. And make sure you follow us on SoundCloud and check us out on Google Play and iTunes.